All right, thank you. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:33. And roll call, I'm Marjorie Winters. We have Charlie Haldeman. Would you serve for the alternate? As Phil for one of the vacancies. Jason Levy, Joe Campolito, Jim Morrison, and Don Eaton. New business, we have received new applications. The first item is CC 21-11 at 5 High Ridge Drive, application for the maintenance of a pond servicing a fire department dry well. Who will be speaking for this application? Tom? Whoops, we've lost Tom. Tom, you might want to adjust your, there you go. Tom, do we have anyone speaking for the new application, or is there anything you want to tell us about the application for 5 High Ridge Drive? You're muted.
You're still muted.
Tom, do you want? Yeah, Tom, you're muted.
Okay, I think I was getting a severe delay because something that was going on a lot with live stream. If it continues, I'll work around it.
Okay. All right. So the application for 5 High Ridge Drive, is there anyone to speak to that? Or is this being received tonight? Is there anything to tell us? Is the applicant here?
Okay. That would be Kevin Kowalski of the fire department, and there's no one to speak to it tonight. We're just receiving it.
All right, so just receiving it. All right, so it is received, and the next item for the receiving new applications is CC 21-13, 32 to 36 Iron Horse Boulevard, application for the development of a detention basin system associated with a residential development. So we're receiving tonight. Will we be having a presentation tonight as well, or?
Yes, it's Tom Daly with SLR, and we do have a brief presentation for you this evening. And if it's okay, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Let me just grab that. Okay, can you see a blue screen with a?
Yes.
Perfect. Look at that. So thank you. So for the record, Tom Daly with SLR. We were formerly Milo and McBroom, but we've joined a kind of an exciting larger firm. And with me this evening is, you've already been introduced to Megan Raymond, who was our wetland scientist. But we're excited to present this application to you this evening for acceptance. But we did think it was important to give you a brief overview. So the project this evening is for apartments, and it's a project called it actually has a name of Barber Cove, but the site is let me just check. So, I'm sure everybody on this commission is very familiar with the site. It's the Simscroft, contractor storage yard. So here's a kind of a view out of the site. Let's see if I can do this. Hold on a second. There you go. So everybody on the commission is familiar, but we have, so on this project, if you can see my, if on this slide, if you can see my cursor, we have Iron Horse Boulevard, which is located here. That's our western border. To the south of our site is the Performing Arts Center and the athletic fields. To the north and to the east is the Farmington River floodplain and adjacent wetlands. As you can see, as you know, there's Barber Cove is actually the name of, I guess, this kind of water body here in the old Oxbow. But the Farmington River is actually itself is fairly far away from the project. But this is the site that we have, where this is actually, we did a brand new drone flight for this site to check the topography. As you can see from the site, it's actually made up of two parcels, both 32 and 36 Iron Horse Boulevard, and it totals about 13 and a half acres. But as you can see from this photograph, I'd have to say about 90% of the site is currently disturbed. It was a contractor's maintenance, storage, and stockpile yard. And then over the last, I guess, year or so, there's been some demolishing of the existing structures and some soil management, and then some cleaning ups of some minor environmental cleanup that went on. Nothing major, just a part of the past use. The site itself is really two terraces. So we have this upper terrace, which is the vast majority of the site. It's relatively flat. Topography varies from 164 to 157. And then we have this lower terrace of the site, which is down at about elevation 151. This is also a topographic survey. This was a map that I believe this commission probably has seen in the past. It's my understanding that the current property owner came before this commission for a wetland map amendment and had this wetland line approved. Megan will speak to that before, but because it was approved, we held that line. And as you can see here in the light green is really the wetland perimeter that goes along the site. The northern perimeter is actually off our property, and the eastern perimeter is actually on our property. But as I said, here's this upper terrace. There's the lower terrace, which is actually pretty small. And then just one give a thing, there's an existing storm drainage discharge coming about the middle of the eastern boundary. So what are we proposing for you this evening? Back in about 2011, the town embarked on a study for the downtown Simsbury, the Simsbury Center. And out of that, my understanding is there was a very robust charrette process, community outreach, and in the end, and ultimately a new code was written for the Simsbury Center's code. And this was one of the really, cogs in the wheel. This was a piece that was identified in that study, and it was identified to be multifamily residential. So I think we're excited to basically, we're excited to be able to execute the town's plan and their vision for what was going to be put on this site. So the proposal this evening is 170 units that are located in 5 buildings. We have a central clubhouse and a pool that are located in the middle. We have 3 basically garage spaces, but you should note that each one of these buildings also have garages located in the back. As you can see, the driveway aprons come in. Those are actually garage spaces underneath the buildings for individual unit owners. We have direct access off Iron Horse Boulevard, clubhouse, and then also in the back area, we have a small maintenance building, and then a fully enclosed recycling and refuse area. So this will be not your standard dumpster area. If you've been out to Chris Nelson's other project in town, you'll see how sharp looking, but this is a fully enclosed area that's not open to the elements. And one other item we have is we've been working with the town. As you know, Iron Horse Boulevard has that great bike trail. We've actually bringing a loop trail all the way around the perimeter of the project. In addition to that, we have a stone dust path that comes down into the lower terrace, comes along, actually goes across 2 footbridges, and then runs up through here. We also located here in the central is just an open air pavilion that looks out over the wetlands. We've put together a fairly robust landscaping plan. As you know, there's very little landscaping out there today and vegetation, maybe a little bit on the perimeter and along the frontage. Our proposal is to have plant over 200 trees. And then down in the lower terrace area, I'll get into that a little bit more, but we're excited about the opportunity to almost do a wetland creation here and a wildflower garden here to support the adjacent wetlands. In terms of the stormwater management, because the site was basically essentially disturbed today and we're creating all this new green space, yes, we are creating new paved surfaces, but we're also creating a lot of green space. And one of the benefits of this plan over maybe some of the other plans that this commission may have seen in the early iterations is these buildings are much more compact and they go more vertical, so that allowed us to get more green space. But we have developed a stormwater plan that we think is right sized for this project. And a couple things to bring to your attention is just alone because the existing area is all basically exposed earth and compacted soil. We're actually showing a net decrease in runoff from the site, so we did not have to do a formal large detention basin. We basically focus primarily on water quality. And the way we've done that is the buildings themselves, the roof leaders will be going to underground chambers. As this commission may know, roof leader is generally considered the clean water. So we want to recharge the groundwater and get that water back in from an infiltration rate. So we have that. And then all the other stormwater gets collected and it overflows. And really we have two things going on here. One, we will route it through a water quality chamber. And then located at the rear of the property, we have basically a splitter or a rear. So we take the first flush, that first 1 inch of runoff, and we divert it into the water quality basin because that will get us the greatest bang for the buck in terms of water quality. I will say that under the DEP rules and the town Simsbury Center rules, this would be considered a redevelopment project, which allows us to go to half the water quality volume, but we didn't do that. This project actually meets the full DEP water quality volume, and then we felt that important, understanding its proximity to the Farmington River. So we didn't do that discount on this project, but what we do is we have a manhole where we split the water and it goes down into this multi-cell stormwater basin. It's basically a wet created swale. And then the larger storm events actually overtop and go to the existing discharge point. We worked really hard to make sure we maintain the existing discharge point that is out there today. We have put together, I know this commission also has authority as the erosion control board for the town. We have put together a fairly robust erosion control plan, and that includes both 2 sediment traps at the top of the hill, and then basically a high level overflow, or basically a third sediment trap that would be located down in the lower terrace. And the entire site will be surrounded by a diversion swale that allows that construction area to get diverted to the 2 sediment traps. But as I said, we're excited about this opportunity down in the lower terrace. So we went through the DEP manual, looked at both, and also your Simsbury Center Zone has a very robust stormwater requirement. So we came up with a water quality swale approach. So you'll have discharge coming in on the northern end. It'll come through into its first cell. It'll overtop with a stone filter berm with basically a log across there that'll act as a weir, which then will go into an additional cell, and then that'll go through a third cell, which then has a overflow underneath a footbridge to the wetland, and then also there's a overflow at the far northern end. And we've put together a large a very detailed planting plan to the point where we will be seeding this entire area with a wildflower mix, wetland seed mix down on the side slopes, and then the basin bottoms will be planted with plugs and then additional plantings. In this whole lower terrace area, we're proposing somewhere in the range of almost 300 native shrubs, silky dogwood, red twig dogwood, winterberry. We also see this as a great opportunity. As I indicated, we're going to have this stone dust path that allows the people, the residents, and actually towns residents also, and just not residents for this, to come down on this stone dust path. We anticipate we'll be putting bird and bat boxes down through this area here. And really, right now, if you went out there today, it's just kind of a, somewhat of a barren, graded, lawn seeded area, and it's our intent to really create this kind of created wetland buffer along this lower terrace. Off to the left of this map, you can't really see, but that will be more of a meadow or a wildflower and a bush and a shrub planted. This will be where the stormwater is, but on the north end, it'll also be restored, but that will be primarily just wildflower and then native shrubs. Just, I know that architecture is not, in the peer review of this commission, but we thought you'd find it interesting to see what the proposal is. Our client has worked closely with Design Review Board to come up with architecture that really doesn't really look like multifamily. It literally looks like townhouses, and we're excited about that. With that, I'm going to ask Megan to present the wetlands, and Megan, I'll scroll through these slides as you direct me to.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. Good evening. For the record, my name is Megan Raymond. I'm a professional wetland scientist and registered soil scientist with SLR. I'm also a certified floodplain manager. And as Tom described, the wetlands on this property were delineated by Tom Petras in 2014, and it went through a formal map amendment process, which was confirmed by your commission at that time. The wetlands are comprised of approximately 1,300 linear feet of a wetland boundary, both between the off-site wetland that exists to the north, as well as the portion of the property that contains inland wetlands in the eastern side of the 13-acre site. In total on the property, we have about 1.2 acres of wetland. We have a high-quality wetland system that's associated with the Farmington River floodplain. The open water area that you see in the northeast of this image is a remnant oxbow of the Farmington River. It's a little bend of the channel, meander bend, that has been cut off years and years, many years ago from the primary flow path, and the Farmington River proper sits about 1,000 feet northeast of the subject property. But we do have some open water in this location that trends very slowly at a northerly gradient. And when you look across this broad expanse of wetland, you see a little bit of every type of cover type of wetlands. The predominant cover type are emergent wetlands out here, but to the north off-site, we have a small fringe of forested wetland, as well as a little shrub mass comprised of pussy willow and alder. Again, we're looking at a high quality wetland system that provides that is replete with wetland function, from flood flow alteration, groundwater discharge, wildlife habitat, sediment toxicant retention, and so on. Soils on this within the wetland are primarily alluvial, but we also have some organic areas, as well as just open standing water zones. As you can see, we have an abrupt transition from that fill slope to the north, but to the east, we have a gentle gradient, or we have a gentle kind of transition from upland area to wetland, and that is the zone where Tom just described our concentration to create and really bolster this interface that's going to serve to mitigate any potential influences of stormwater with the long-term management of the project as a residential property. Is there another slide? Yeah, so I think that it's important to note here that we've also designed this site plan to really conform with the existing limits of disturbance. We have an overview that you guys can take a look at your leisure. I know we're just accepting tonight. I'm sure you could come up with some questions for us for the next meeting. But what we try to depict here is just the locations of the proposed buildings within the context of the wetlands. And you see those areas are concentrated on that upper terrace outside of our 100-year floodplain, and largely concentrated within our existing disturbed area, and then really repurposing our eastern interface to enhance stormwater management, pertinent upland habitat with pollinator garden, and as well some recreational and passive, active, I guess, and passive recreational amenities, because there's a beautiful view shed that we're looking to expose the residents to, as both to the south and to the north. And I guess as well, mindful of our neighbors within this Farmington River wetland complex, we have also incorporated other design features into the long-term management of the site as it relates to lighting, that we can get into at the next meeting. But I just wanted to let you know that we've really looked at this site from a perspective of maintaining this high quality wetland system, but as well as looking to purpose the site as a multifamily residence. So I'm happy to answer any questions for you this evening, but if not, we can pick it up at the next time. Thanks so much for your attention.
Do the commissioners have any questions?
I actually, there's a question for me, and then I'm also going to turn it back to Tom too. If I don't know if you have it closed, Tom.
All right.
No, that was same. Yeah, we're all set. Thank you.
All right. I did have one question. I love the planting scheme for the detention bases. I appreciate the use of all those natives. I did notice in the planting plan for the rest of the thinking as from the conservation point of view, for the trees on the rest of the plan, I saw that there was a Japanese cherry. Would it be possible to substitute that in for a native plant as well? Whether it's a redbud or a surface berry or something like that. I'd love to see that on the upcoming plan.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. But yes.
And then you said something about the green space around the buildings. Will that just be lawn or?
It will be lawn around the buildings, correct?
And you will show us a maintenance plan for that.
Yes, we can give you a turf management plan for those.
Good.
Yeah, that's easy.
So I had a question about sort of the maintenance of the I want to say the drainage pond areas in terms of over time. Do you think you'll have to remove silt from these areas over time? Is that part of a maintenance plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. It will be. There is a maintenance plan. If you look on our UT sheet, we walk through, and we expect this to become a more formal document. But each stormwater feature gives a guidance on that. That being said, we are seeing that the use of sand is being reduced over the time, so that sedimentation is not as bad as it used to be. But that was also one reason why we did multi-cells. The expectation is if we do get any sediment, it just goes into that first cell, and we just have, instead of having to rip out 1 inch over the whole square foot, we can focus it on that one cell. But there could be times, and then it would have to be restored to the planting plan as presented to this commission. But we do have a maintenance plan on this sheet, but we'll have to we can provide that in a different format if the commission is so inclined.
That'd be a good idea. Are there any other?
But the other thing is this is not a condominium. It will be owned by a certain one person. So and I think so maintenance is a lot easier than multiple people getting involved. So
okay.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Good.
Is there going to be a separate erosion and sediment control plan?
There is. So sheet SE1 is included in the set, and it includes erosion controls.
So at the next meeting, you'll be looking for approval of the ENS plan as well?
Correct.
As
It's
well.
it, that was my understanding that this commission had authority over that, unless it's changed, but that was been my past experience. So yes. And this project will also need to be, we'll have more than 5 acres of disturbance. Well, it's more than 5 acres of disturbance today, but so it will also be registered with the DEP under their construction stormwater permit.
Oh, and the non-construction permit too, presumably, right? If it's more than 5 acres.
No, but it's not 5 acres of pavement. It's just 5 acres of disturbance. So it would just be the stormwater for what's it, construction activities, I would anticipate.
Okay. Is this so? This is the soil erosion and sediment control narrative. So this is for this is for construction of the entire facility, the entire site.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're not voting on it. And
Yeah.
I assume Tom
And-
hasn't had a chance
yeah.
to see it yet.
Yeah, and the benefit of this site is we only have to deal with the water. First of all, it's not steep site. Second of all, is my greatest challenge is always on those sites that is at the toe of a large watershed, and you have 30 acres trying to drain through a site. The lucky thing about this project is, the soils are not bad, so they'll infiltrate. And then two, we really only have to deal with the rain that falls out of the sky, as opposed to some 5 acre watershed that's going through here. So, not that it's not important. I think you're probably going towards is we have a very important resource is our neighbor, and even temporary impacts due to erosion need to be mitigated strongly.
And then is any of the construction going to be below grade?
All the
Are
utilities.
going to be basements and things?
No, there's no basements. There'll be just these are slab on grade.
Okay. All right.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank
And,
you for having us.
We'll see.
And if
Yeah, Tom.
Marjorie,
Yes, Tom.
I'm very sorry. I'm getting like delays on all my stuff, so I do apologize, but I'm not going to be able to participate as much as I wanted to. That's all I want to say. I'm sorry.
That's too bad. All right, but we will see. We will have a chance to do this at the next meeting. Hear your comments at the next meeting. All right.
Mhm.
Okay. Then thank you very much, Tom and Megan. We'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right. Old business. Tom, you had your hand up for this is. Are you okay, Tom? I mean, do you want to say something? Yes. Okay. So there's no old business. General commission business, the approval of minutes from May 18th, regular meeting. Do we have, are there any comments or additions, changes, corrections? And hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. All in
You're
favor?
welcome.
Aye.
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 All right.
Aye.
Agent actions, we're going to delay that one because of Tom's technicality. We'll delay that to the next meeting. Don't think we need a motion for that. I don't think. And then correspondence. I don't see if there's any correspondence. No. Anyone have anything that they'd like to bring up under conservation business?
I was just looking for an update on how we're doing on sort of the paperwork for the pollinator activity and sort of the guidelines for native species. I mean, we've talked a lot about those as being items that we wanted to pursue, but it
Yeah.
seems like there was a bunch of stuff going on in the background, and I was interested on when when we are going to sort of bring that out onto the websites or whatever the plan is for that.
I know Joe can bring us up to date on the pollinator pathway. I know today I was looking for websites that we could link to on our. I sent Tom some links for the bird feeder, bird plantings. But today I also saw a website I thought we could link to, and it was suggesting alternative plants. I'll try to get a link, a group of things together for that, for alternative plants to the non-natives that are conventionally used. I saw one today that was talking about the alternatives plants for the mid-century plants that have been used traditionally in our garden. I thought mid-century is a nice way of saying they're old-fashioned. They can do better. So I like that aspect. I still haven't been able to find the any other town that's really pushing for natives, but that's not because I've done a completely thorough search. I'm going to keep looking for those, so we can get it in with zoning and try to get them on board with suggesting native plants for applications. And we're working on the open space committee. We're trying to work with the idea that maybe the town could have a policy that it would use native plants in its plantings. So if we can get the town to do it, and I think the town's working on a couple of things. Unfortunately, we didn't have not having an open space. We didn't have an open space meeting last month, and we don't have one this month. So hopefully something will show up on the next. They'll be able to do the next month. But Joe, do you want to fill us in on the pollinator pathway?
Sure. Simsbury pollinator pathway. We have a board. We're launching as pretty much as we speak. So we've had a few board meetings. Some of the mundane details. We've applied for a 501c3 so that we would be a nonprofit. We've spoken to the town about possibly a proclamation of making June or one of the months a pollinator friendly month and proclaiming the town a pollinator friendly town. And we've spoken to some, and I don't want to give too much away at the moment until things are really solidified. We have spoken to some organizations in the downtown area, if you will, or the center area, who are interested in putting in pollinator gardens. We'll be launching a website soon. We're putting that together. So we're, trying to get all those pieces into place. I was very pleased to see, the approach of SLR. It's just nice to see, a company or, construction company or consultants who take this all so seriously. I think that's a step in the right direction for all of us. Stormwater berms and, native plantings, and it's just wonderful. And I think that's certainly a good place as far as the commission. I think that's a nice bar for us to have. It's a good example of how, with some thoughtful consideration, you can construct something that you can build, but you can also make sure that it's done in a environmentally sensitive way. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, we're just getting sort of the plane up off the ground. But we're doing a lot of the things behind the scenes to get it launched, and I'll look forward to filling you in more as we get some organizations who will be putting in the pollinator gardens, get the pollinator pathway started here in town. We'll be providing resources, and we'll also be providing, through the website, a way to, I don't want to say publicize, but certainly make known when these pollinator gardens go in, so that folks can see that it's something that we all can do.
That sounds good. I also noticed that SLR worked with the design review board on the architectural design.
Mm-hmm.
And if one would think that there's also an opportunity to work with the Conservation Commission.
Yes.
On the planting plans and some of the
yes.
Conservation Commission.
Right, I would agree. And Marjorie, I know when we met with Mike Glidden, we had talked about conservation, offering advice and counsel, much as design review does, for the landscape management, for the planting plans. And I think that's a really great place for this commission.
Right.
So, actually, that goes to sort of my main question, which is, what are you guys thinking tactically about the information that's going to come from the Conservation Commission versus these other commissions, and the ownership of who's like taking charge of the maintenance of this and the website links? So it seems like we don't want to be duplicating a lot of stuff, but there seems like there's a piece that this group is going to own, and there's a piece where we're going to be referring to other people. Has that been figured out?
Well, there is. I mean, there's areas where, we're the Conservation Commission, but zoning is the one that sees a lot of the new applications,
Right.
and we have to have a meeting with them to get them on the same page, so that they are also requesting better landscape plans. So, because
Right.
we only see certain applications if they impact the wetlands, so we're not seeing everything.
Right.
And we're also not getting referrals for conservation, which that's another thing we want to address.
Okay, so it sounds like, in addition to information, let's say pollinator pathways, native species, that there's also some amount of work that has to be done in terms of delineating responsibilities of the Conservation Commission and broadcasting that, so that you speak more of the voice. Okay.
Right.
So when are we going to be talking about that in general? We're going to have a meeting where we're going to say, this is the vision for this piece of it, or this is what open space is talking about, us relative to open space.
So do you want to have a meeting as a Conservation Commission before that, to discuss it, or do you want to, should we schedule a meeting with zoning right off? Or what do you think would be a better strategy?
Who are you asking that to?
You, John.
I think we should talk about it internally a little bit, because we just, there's a couple things. If we start to talk about sort of guidelines versus things that, maybe people want to require or something, then there's some amount of ownership of information and updating of the information. So we have to think about our maintenance of all that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think somebody, it'd be nice. I'm not as involved with you as you guys are, but I cannot articulate to somebody else what we think our vision is at this point in time.
Mm.
I can definitely tell you what I think these subgroups are doing. I mean, I probably can't do it as well as you guys, but I could go and tell some of my buddies from the gardening club, this is what's going on. But I could not articulate what Conservation Commission will be doing 2 years from now and how it links to open space and how we're going to be helping to broadcast these best practices.
So do you think a workshop, or do we want to have someone come in and talk to us about this?
I would think a workshop. It would be interesting to know what we think is a set of goals from our group. And then I think, it'd be really nice to know what the other parts of Simsbury, I'd like to know what open space is thinking about. I'd like to know what some of these other groups are. So I don't know whether we have to articulate a vision for ourselves and where we fit, and then we go out and talk to people, or are we listening to these other groups as we try to figure out how we'll fit in the things that have already been done. I can't figure out who's like leading, and are we supposed to be supporting, or are we supposed to be articulating this vision as a Conservation Commission a little bit?
How about if we have, I'll have a talk with, talk with Tom and Mike. Joe, you can sit in on that one. I mean, we've had a preliminary conversation. I'll see if I can find any, get some recommendations, which I'm going to look from Fairfield and see if they've got any regulations. I mean, if we can get regulations that some other town has put in, it makes it a lot easier for us to go to zoning and get them to adopt those things. But again, you're saying, what is our plan? I will get some, I know Open Space has been working on some management goals for the town.
Mm-hmm.
We can get those out. They haven't finalized them, but let me, Tom, we can get those out. Oh, we're not hearing.
Yep. That's all. Well, we don't answer it today, Marjorie, but it would be
So,
interesting to start to try to articulate some of this,
Yeah.
particularly given the history that we have going back a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, the forest management stuff,
Yeah.
etc. This is a good time to be recasting some of this.
Good. All right. Well, I will get, I'll send, I think, Tom, you've got them, but I'll send them back to you, some of the things that we're working on,
Yes.
for the open space. No, they're still in limbo, but to give you the flavor for those, and maybe we can set a meeting for next time. Well, a time when we don't have much on our agenda, we can
Right.
do that, or set up a special meeting.
Right.
I don't know, Tom, whether you heard any of that.
Well,
I'll do
whatever.
it.
So
Oh my God.
whatever you guys think is fine. But I would love
All right,
to be able to articulate it.
I'll take care of that tomorrow. Okay. So any other conservation business? All right. All right. So thank you all for coming. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks a lot. All right.
Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.
Thank you.
I'll be
Guys.
Tom. All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right.